is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering Justified, Season 6, Episode 8, Dark as a Dungeon. In this episode, well, what the hell happened in Bulletville? I don't understand how this episode starts. Welcome to Unspoiled.
On this lonely road, trying to make it home, doing it by my lonesome, pissed off, who wants some? I'm fighting for my soul, God, get at your boy. You try to go, God, fall back, I go hard. On this lonely road, trying to make it home, doing it by my lonesome, pissed off, who wants some?
I'm not sure I follow.
Okay, so we have the confrontation with Ava and Boyd, and he's like, oh, this gun was actually empty. Surprise. And then he puts bullets in the gun and gives her this significant glance, and the episode ends as if to say, what's he gonna do now? And then this episode, when we see them first, they're coming up to the mine. Do you know what I mean? Like, I thought that there was going to be another moment in Bulletville where we see them together and understand what that look was, or apparently it was nothing. Apparently it was just, well, now that I've finished my little farce, I'll put my bullets back. But in the moment, it felt like, all right, now it's time, you know?
Okay, I hear what you're saying. I don't know that I'd say it was nothing, though. I do think that he was, it was a farce to figure out what the hell was going on. And it ends with the two of them seeming to reconcile, and we're all cool now, except Boyd is clearly not cool with this. He doesn't act out immediately. He doesn't, murder her in her sleep or anything. Mm-hmm. But, they aren't as together as maybe Ava now thinks they are.
Okay. I don't know. I felt like they really purposely left that feeling open-ended because they were going to start the next episode with them still there. So when that was nothing, and I know you're saying it wasn't nothing, but I just mean like when whatever they did after that turned out to not be important enough to be on screen, I was really, really thrown. Like, okay. And especially like, I think the way that we discussed that scene, if you listen, I'm pretty sure you can hear my expectation that I expect to come back to this and in the next episode. So I guess like what you're saying is just that we're supposed to know that where Boyd's mind is at, and that's fine. But I don't know. That just kind of confused the issue for me a little bit. And,
okay. Well, and there's no saying that they're not going to come back to, the emotional core of that scene and what their relationship is. But I can see why the way they left it makes it seem like we are going to come back to the two of them in Bulletville and resolve something. Right. And that definitely did not happen. They just came back.
Yeah. But despite that weirdness and that throwing me off a lot, I really, really liked this episode. I think it's just that there was so much, like, they've been doing a lot of like emotional work with Raylan, and it's surprising. I just didn't really expect it because the show has sort of tiptoed near it, but not actually felt like they dealt with it in a real way. Or had, I guess not that they haven't, but they acknowledged that Raylan is the guy who doesn't deal with it in a real way. And so the fact that they didn't was in character for him, but now we're reaching a point in the show where they're like, all right, we need to have him coping with some shit. And I find it more interesting than I think I would have thought I'd find it. If you had told me about it, if you were like, well, season 6, Raylan comes to terms with some stuff, I'd be like, oh, snore. But I'm actually kind of liking it. So cool. So welcome to the show, everyone. I'm Natasha.
And I'm Alan, and I've seen this whole show.
He has. All of it.
It's awesome.
And I have seen nothing None of it. I've never even seen this episode that we're about to talk about. It's going to be a weird show, guys.
So then the dragon shows up.
Oh my God. I was hate watching Iron Fist this afternoon while I filled out patron postcards.
That is one way to spend your time.
Oh my God. Because I want to put something on that Owen's not going to get mad at me for watching without him. And so you kind of just have to put on garbage, you know? And
yeah.
Oh man, the dragon. I don't even know what they're doing. Okay. Sorry.
Iron Fist is some premium garbage.
It is astonishing how bad it is. I know everybody said this. I won't belabor the point. But I kept thinking that I knew. All right, yeah, this is pretty bad. And then they kept doing another thing that I was like, "Oh my God, really?" Like he's basically Christian Grey, but with like a superpower. I'm
happy to say that I can't make that comparison. But yeah, and I won't belabor the point either, but I have a real soft spot for Iron Fist, and I'm so horrified with the way that they've chosen to portray him in these shows.
Oh, I'm sorry. I know what that's like. I get that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah, nope,
back to
that
this.
certainly is. Yeah. So this is her way of saying there is not going to be any sort of patrons only show for Iron Fist.
Oh shit, no. Nope. I covered so many of the other Marvel shows, and then Luke Cage kind of burned me, and then Iron Fist, yeah. I was just like, yeah, I'm done.
That's fair. And the Defenders, you haven't missed anything.
I've watched it all.
Earth-shattering. Oh, okay. Okay, so you know.
Who could... But how are you... Like, I'm watching a bunch of beautiful people who are fighting bad guys, and I'm bored as hell. How can I be bored throughout that? And yet I am. Like...
I know.
God damn.
I know. And not only, yeah, they're not just bad guys. They're not just mystical ninja bad guys. They're mystical ninja bad guys being led by Sigourney Weaver.
Right. Owen was like so excited because he loves her. Sigourney Weaver is probably like the one celebrity that he would have on his cheat card.
Yep.
He loves her. And he could not give a shit, and he was so sad about it. He was just like, how can you make me not care about Sigourney Weaver? I'm like, I'm sorry, babe. Boring bitch.
Seriously. So, shall we talk about something much more interesting?
Let us do this, yes.
All right. So, Justified Season 6, Episode 8, Dark as a Dungeon, written by V.J. Boyd. This is his 6th of 7th episodes. And Chris Provenzano. This is his 10th of 11 episodes. And directed by Gwyneth Horder Payton. And this is her 4th of 4 that she's directed for Justified. Previous to this, she did Loose Ends in Season 3. That was the episode with the sheriff election. And that was where Raylan and Limehouse talking about when Limehouse kicked the crap out of Arlo that one time. Mm-hmm. She did Peace of Mind in Season 4, which is the showdown at the end of Season 4 between Ava and Ellen May.
Oh, right. Okay.
And she did Over the Mountain last season, which is the first appearance of Albert Fikus, and the one where Dewey shoots Wade Messer and then like tracks him all through the woods.
She's done some good ones. Goddamn.
She has. There's a lot of emotional stuff. Like there's a lot of people dealing with internal stuff in her episodes. So this one actually sort of tracks, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense. Those were all some of my favorite, at least moments within the episodes that you mentioned. But yeah, all right.
Yeah. So this episode opens with Raylan clearing out his daddy's house. And what did you think about this?
I really liked it. It just felt really, I guess what they did right here was they have him do all of this stuff alone. Yeah. Because this is just, he's just, like I said, not somebody who likes to deal with this stuff in general. But if he's going to do it, he sure as fuck isn't going to do it in front of anybody. Mm. And he's clearly like put this shit off a while. How long has his dad been dead by this point? Like
Season 4, so it's been a while. It's been a minute.
This is the kind of thing that most people do within the first few days. They like kind of, it's part of the ritual a lot of the time of coping with somebody's death. And most of the time when people want to cope, they do it pretty quickly after. And if it were if the situation were Raylan having brothers and sisters, it would have been done already. I can almost guarantee you.
Yeah.
But it's him all alone, so he's been able to just kind of let it sit. And now he finally, like, is he selling the place? Is that what's really, like, happening here? Do we know?
Yeah, remember the first episode of the season, that's where we meet Ty Walker. He drives up to the for sale sign.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I forgot that he, like, actually saw a for sale sign, because he was just offering everybody money. So I was like, did he know? Okay, gotcha. Yeah. So his hand has basically been forced here, and he wouldn't, I'm sure, would choose not to deal with any of this at all if he could help it. But he kind of has to. And there's just something really... Can we just talk about it, like, as a whole, like, even him going down in the basement?
Of course. Sure.
I love that he, first of all, opens that trunk, and there's all kinds of stuff that reminds you about, like, what a life his dad has had. All this stuff that you just kind of, his dad is such a shit. And not that any of this takes away from his shittiness, but it's really easy to forget all of the things that lead to somebody being who they are. And the amount of stuff he kept is pretty notable. Photos and letters and, like, that was a full trunk.
Yeah.
And Raylan, like, goes through it to a degree, but he doesn't, like, most people I feel like would open those letters.
Right.
People go through every single photo, and he doesn't want anything to do with it. Like, he just burns it with hardly looking at any of it. He just takes the keys, really, is it.
Right.
And then it turns out that there was this basement that he kept locked, and he wouldn't let the kids near it, and he wouldn't let his wife near it. And Raylan always had weird fantasies and nightmares about what his dad was keeping down there. And that is such a child thing to do. Like, when I was about 11 or 12 years old, I went with my friends to church for Christmas. And we were sitting in the pews before the service started, chatting with me and my cousins. And there was this one door off to the side. And we saw periodically people going in and out of the door. And it was always different people. And we noticed that a lot of times they didn't come back out again. And as an adult, maybe it was an exit, Natasha. Maybe it went to a different room and they did something and went out another door or came back in through a different entrance. But as a kid, we zeroed in on that door and invented some insane shit that was behind that door. Like fairy tale levels monsters that are eating people and hypnotizing them into walking in the door kinds of shit. That I loved the detail of how Raylan just had all of these wild notions, even slave girls being down there, just like it just felt so true to me. And then there's nothing there. It's not even that there's a chair and a table and a lamp. There's nothing there.
Yeah.
There's not a fucking bookshelf. Like, none of the things that most people, this is like, when you want to say man cave, that's about as cave as you're going to get in a home.
Yeah. Pretty literal with it still being above ground.
Like,
yeah.
He could, I imagine, like, the one exception he might make is like a pile of hay in the corner that he'd curl up on like a dog. And that would be his furniture. But when Raylan says, I think, like, everything evil about you, I thought was down here. And then all of a sudden Arlo's there and he's like, and it's a whole lot of nothing.
Yeah.
I was like, that's fucked up. Yep. That makes sense.
Well, there's, and I think there's just really wonderful symbolism in this guy that Raylan is now deconstructing. That back in the first season, there was that episode, The Lord of War and Thunder, where we meet him. And that idea of who Raylan sees his dad as. And he isn't wrong, but at the same time, he just isn't that, he's not a big enough man to be the Lord of War and Thunder.
Right.
There's just much more about his life is sad
Yeah.
than it is, angry and worth all of the emotional, deposits that Raylan's been putting into it for 40 years.
Yeah, I mean, that's so often the way, too, is you grow up with somebody and they do things and you're like, why? And you create these scenarios, oftentimes centered around them hating you or blaming, and half the time, you're not a fucking factor at all, but you just get so wrapped up in how it has to be. And there's this moment in Leftovers where some guy is asking why his father killed himself on his birthday. And the person says, your father was so messed up that he didn't even remember that it was your birthday. Like, it was just a terrible coincidence. It wasn't. And, this guy was like probably 58 years old, went his whole life probably thinking that his dad did it specifically as a fuck you. Because why wouldn't you think that? Of course you would.
Right.
But then to hear it had nothing to do with you, it didn't even enter his head, which is almost worse, to be honest. But just, that's where I feel like Raylan is right now. It's just like, I thought that you were like a villain in the corner plotting. And it turned out that you just didn't even have it in you to do that. Like, that was just too much effort for you, buddy.
Yeah, it's a great bit of both of those scenes. They're great bits of very understated acting from Timothy Olyphant, who has been that way the entire series, but more often than not, he doesn't really get to play that kind of thing. So yeah, both of those scenes are really nice moments for him to stretch a little bit.
Yeah, agreed.
I like them. So yeah, we go through Raylan cleaning his dad's house, burns his old army footlocker, takes that key. We're going to come back around to the thing at the very end. After we leave the house, though, we go to Ava and Boyd, and they are showing up at the mine shaft where Boyd has just learned what happened to the pig a few episodes ago. And Carl tells him that Zachariah is still down in the mine, and he's waiting for Boyd to come down there so he can show him what happened.
Yeah, which is immediately just kind of like,
yeah,
okay.
Is he now? Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. Boyd pulls Ava off to the side and talks a little bit about the plan of action that the two of them have come up with. And Ava gets her phone from him and kind of says, this is our pipeline to Raylan. Hang on to it and let me know what's going on. You need to trust me.
Yeah. I like that a lot. I like that he keeps like revisiting that. Like, do you trust me though? We're gonna I'm not gonna just forget about what happened. We need to continue to reinforce this because it doesn't just come back all of a sudden. You need to like put it back together.
Right.
So yeah, I like that a lot.
But that's also sort of full of shit because we know that Boyd was setting up that whole circumstance in the woods and doesn't particularly trust her.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even want to say that though, because I think you're probably right. But at the same time, I feel like that's just Boyd being Boyd and always having a contingency plan.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I feel like he probably,
I see that.
I think if she had tried to pull that trigger, I think he would have been pretty shocked, but he wasn't about to take that risk, you know?
Yeah, sure.
Can you hear this fucking dog?
Yeah, there's a little something going on in the background there.
This is some Lady and the Tramp level, like banging to the moon shit happening here. Good God. Calm down.
Animals. Jeez.
Dogs are like, they're adorable and everything, but God, why would you want one? They're like children to me.
Oh yeah, we've talked about getting an animal for our apartment, and they allow cats and dogs under 40 pounds. And we've figured out if it's going to happen while we're here, it would need to be a cat because we can't take care of a dog. There's way too much that goes into it.
Oh my God, they're so high maintenance. It's insane.
And and you never know what kind of dog you're going to get because they end up being barky. They end up being, there's a whole range of things that happen
enough.
when you pick up a dog. So, that being said, dogs are cool. I got no issue with them beyond as long as I don't have to take care of them all the time.
Word.
And when they don't mess up our podcasts.
Yeah, motherfucker.
Fucking dogs. Anyway, so after the mine shaft, and Boyd tells Earl to go take Ava home. Do not let her out of your sight. That's the end of our scene there. We then go back to Raylan, who is at his dad's house again, and he's meeting with the local mortician at the graves that are on the property that we've sort of boggled at the entire series.
Right.
As like, what the fuck? And he wants his mother's remains to be moved, since he's selling the house. He wants them disinterred and then reinterred at the town cemetery. And the mortician's kind of explaining to him, this is sort of moving the memory of your mother, because there probably isn't very much that's actually there.
Which is crazy, because it's only been 17 years, less by then?
Less than at the time it aired, yeah.
Shows they decompose that quickly? Like, you see people breaking into like 100-year-old shit on TV, and there's still like a skeleton inside, and their clothes are even kind of still there.
Yeah. Although Raylan does say with the kind of casket, he said his father would have picked whatever's the cheapest thing that he could have gotten would have been what she was buried in.
True, but like when something's that old, you can't imagine that they had great quality caskets that long ago. But maybe they did. I really don't know what caskets were like 150 years ago. What do I know?
Yeah, right. But he's going to move his mom and to put her in the town cemetery, and he's going to move his dad, and he can go where the fuck ever. Mm-hmm. And the guy is a little taken aback that he genuinely doesn't seem to care where his dad winds up.
Yeah.
But whatever. And he suggests Potter's Field, which I assume is where, the unclaimed bodies and things like that end up getting buried.
Yeah, I feel like they've mentioned Potter's Field before.
I feel like they have too, but I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
So, as that conversation's kind of tapering off, Tim pulls up, and he tells Raylan they have some leads on Ty Walker. And Raylan is back on the clock now. It's been long enough. And Raylan kind of goes, yeah, but I don't really care about Ty Walker. I am here to get Boyd Crowder, and I've even got an idea of who I can talk to about this.
Yeah. I like this little interaction, because he's just always so champing at the bit to like do stuff and be involved. And all season, he's just been weird, just like, well, yeah, I'm going to do that. But like, not. I'm also going to take this time off to hang out with my family. And he means it.
Right.
It's weird,
That's a good point. I hadn't really thought about that, but this has been a season where he has been, especially considering they're going after the guy that the whole series has been kind of, the antagonist the whole series has been building around. He is weirdly disconnected from everything this season.
Yeah, definitely.
He's more aloof than normal, let's say. So Tim isn't super thrilled with that idea. But Raylan tells him about, I got this, this thing on Zacharias Randolph. And Tim says, why isn't anyone down here named Steve or Justin?
God. So true.
Right?
Word. Like, yeah. Yep. Yeah. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah. And, it turns out I don't think we ever really get direct confirmation of this, but Raylan doesn't really have much of a choice. He's got to go get Ty Walker, which is sort of his whole thing this episode, is please let's resolve this so I can continue looking for the guy that I really want to look for. We leave them, though, and go back to Ava's house, where she and Earl have shown up, and once they're inside with the door locked, turns out Ty Walker is waiting in their kitchen. And,
I didn't expect that. That caught me by surprise.
No. There's only so many places I imagine that he really knows about in this town.
Yeah.
So.
That's true.
And he correctly guesses, since that door was locked, that I guess it's just going to be the three of us then. And that leads us into our credits.
when you say, like, there's not many places he knows of, I guess I should have really thought... I just figured he'd just try to run, but he'd have to steal a car. Right. And with everybody looking for him, car goes missing, they're going to know that it's him. They'd have to, right? And then they'd put an APB out on that car, which is even worse news for him. Like, because I don't think at the moment they even know what particular car he was driving when he fled the scene. I think that they just knew they were looking for him. Right. But if they knew the exact like make and model, that would be pretty bad. So, yeah. I kind of probably should have figured this, but.
Well, and on top of everything else, I mean, it makes sense because he needs to leave not by the roads. And that's what he and Boyd are talking about later, about getting him up to the hill people and all this other stuff to kind of take him over hill and dale to get out of here. And Boyd Crowder, being the local gangster, makes all the sense in the world that that's the guy that you would try to go to, even though if your reputation isn't quite so good right now with him.
Right.
Because he's the man that can make that happen.
Yeah, he is. He's the one.
Yeah. So we'll get back to that in a second. After our credits, though, we come back to the mine. Boyd and Carl descend into the mine, and Boyd has this confrontation with Zachariah because he suspects that he is really just holding out for money.
Now, listen. If this is really what it is, I'm going to be pissed.
Okay.
I don't think it is. Because, I don't know. All right, well, okay. Jumping ahead a tiny bit, but forgive me. Raylan says to Zachariah, well, it's about money. And he's like, well, maybe it's not. And Raylan's like, fuck you. Of course it is. It's always about money with you fucking hicks, basically.
Right.
And yet, people were still, like, not selling their properties. Like, when we were trying to pretend it was all about money and buy everybody's land up to plant weed, it didn't work. And sure enough, later on, it turns out that Boyd was, like, warning them off, but that wasn't always the case right from the start. He didn't know what was going on. Right. And so, we know this is not necessarily true. And I think there's something else here, and he's letting Boyd think that it's just a shakedown because there's a longer game in it for him. I don't know what it is, though, because I would think it was just killing Boyd. And, like, he could have just let him die that one time.
Right.
So, it could potentially be... It could potentially be that he just wants the money. But I don't know. I'm suspicious of him on a deeper level. There was something about the way when Boyd confronts him and is like, how much? There was something about the way that he reacted that felt like he was surprised and wasn't really like prepared to lay a number down, you know? I don't know. So.
No, I think that that's reasonable. And money is, I like the fact that in this show, so often it really just comes down to people want money. And I like that about Justified. Mm-hmm. But it's also always kind of a disappointing answer as to why people do things.
Yep.
And sometimes you make it fun, like in Die Hard, when, you know, John McClane realizes that this is never about, you know, political prisoners and all this other stuff that they've been spouting. You're a thief.
Yeah, right.
And that revelation is just, you know, that's a really well done example, but it's so disappointing to Bruce Willis that the guy that he's taking on is just a bank robber.
Nothing but a common thief.
I am an exceptional thief.
Yeah, I love that so much.
Such a good movie. But yeah, I mean, I guess we'll have to see. But in this scene, he does say, well, another 10,000 will do it. And Carl is watching this exchange very intently and kind of locks eyes with him before he walks away with Boyd. So Carl is not in the Zachariah fan club.
No, I mean, and like I said, that was part of it too. That he's like, about another 10,000 should do it. He killed somebody. Mm-hmm. I just don't buy that he's the kind of guy that would kill somebody for 10 grand. He just doesn't strike me as that type. He's a desperate type, but he's not a
mercenary.
Yeah, you know, like
He'd do it for free before he'll do it for money.
I really feel like that. Like when Boyd offers him that money and shows him in the bank account, like, oh, here it is. It's not like he's like, all right, sure. It really takes some asking even after that point. I don't know. I don't think this is what's happening.
That's a good point. But we don't find out this episode, so we shall have to continue to, wait in. Well, I don't know. I don't remember what the end of that phrase is. What is it? We have to continue to wait in. Nope, it's gone.
Okay.
We'll find out later, maybe. So, back at Ava's house, Ty is having Ava tie up Earl to a kitchen chair.
Right.
And he then explains to her that he's removed all the weapons he could find from the house. The pistol by the sink is gone. The shotgun in the closet's gone. The knives in your drawers are gone. Please don't try to deal with this. I'm not here to hurt you or Boyd. And then he even says, I need you to go, sew up my bullet wound. Because he hasn't had a chance to really deal with that.
Don't care for this.
Yeah.
I don't like. I guess Ava's probably had to deal with this before, the kind of life that she's lived. But like, it's pretty incredible to me to just be like, just put the stitches a cord away from the edge of the room. Like, he's giving her lessons. Like, it doesn't feel like it's something she's super experienced in. Maybe she's done it before, but like, not a lot. And Alan, if somebody came into your house and they needed you to stitch up a wound, do you think you could do that?
No, I don't. No, I don't. I was trying to come up with a snarky answer, but no, I don't think I could deal with that. I could try, but I'm more likely to lose the needle than I am to sew anything up.
You wouldn't lose the needle.
Oh, totally I would. I would try to my hands would shake, I'd drop it, it'd get lost on the carpet.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm just that kind of useless.
That's fucking funny. Oh, I'm just picturing you then like trying to pick it up and just use it again. He's like, oh my God, you better dunk that in some alcohol. Like there's carpet hairs and dog hairs stuck to it.
I would be crying the entire time. I don't want to do it.
Oh, that's so funny.
Oh yeah, it would be pathetic. Apparently though, Ava is a better med tech than she is a hairstylist. Mm-hmm. Because Ty seemed kind of okay before he gets shot in the back. But, more on that later.
Well, until she goes a little too hard and he almost fucking shoots, what's his name? That made me jump. That was very well done, to be honest. I was impressed with how much I was like, whoa, okay.
Yeah. So we leave the kitchen for the time being, and we go to Zachariah again. He's getting dynamite out of his work shed when Raylan walks up to him, and Zachariah covers the explosives with like a piece of canvas. Mm-hmm. And Raylan identifies himself, and they reminisce a little bit. He goes like, oh, yeah, we knew each other back in 1990 in Joseph's Valley, the dog hole mine. And then Raylan just kind of comes out and says, like, he wants to know Zachariah's rate for his services to Boyd.
Yo.
To which he is sort of indignant.
He calls him a whore.
Well, right, that too.
He legit says, well, you're a whore. I was like, what did you just say? That took me, like, I rewound. I was like, he did not just say that.
Yeah.
That was harsh.
It was good. And then Raylan gut punches him.
Just punches him.
And finds the dynamite and then turns back around just to be, clobbered. And they, throw a couple of haymakers, and finally Zachariah ends up on the ground. I still got some scrap.
I love the fact that he's already seen what the fuck is in that crate, but Zachariah's like, no, I have to at least punch you one time. You don't get to just do that and then nothing. Like, there's no real point to him getting in this fight after the fact, but he still has to, you know?
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. And he seems resigned to the fact he's about to get arrested, but Raylan's like, no, I'm not going to take you in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he has to let this shit fall together.
Yeah. And he says, and he thanks Raylan for that, and he goes, don't. You're in deep shit either way.
Mm-hmm. True enough.
And pieces out. Then we leave all the dirty people, and we go to Catherine Hale entering Duffy's hotel room.
Oh my God, this scene.
Tell us about this scene.
This whole scene. This, like, I'm not kidding. I watched this episode 3 times because I was just, there's so many little delightful moments. He spilled guacamole on his shirt. 9:30 in the morning. He loves guac. Though it, like, where has Mikey been all this time?
I know.
Why is he only just now in this final season getting lines? Because he's so delightful. Oh, wow, really? You played tennis? We should play doubles sometime. I dated a tennis pro for a while. Then dead fucking silence as she stares at him like she's the Dowager Countess. And one of the fucking downstairs servants had the gall to say some shit to her. Like, this is a Downton Abbey level moment of just, you are so not supposed to be talking to me. God damn.
Oh, yeah. And you can see it in his face when he realizes he has overstepped.
Oh, my God. He looks... It's not even... Like, he doesn't even look mad. He's just like, oh, fuck. You know? Just, I should have known better. And how embarrassed Duffy looks. Like, Duffy looks up at him and then, like, looks down at his shirt. Like, oh, God, kid, I can't even watch this happen. You know, like, oh, I love this whole thing so much.
Yeah.
Everything with this crew is so fun.
I forgot how long it took for Mikey to get a personality. I really did. When he first showed up, I said how much I liked him, and then he just proceeded to do nothing for like 4 seasons.
Right? Yeah.
But yeah, he's delightful by the end. So yeah, Duffy sends Mike to go pick up their dry cleaning to extricate him from the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And then he makes his case to Catherine that Avery Markham was behind her husband's demise. He finds this guy. He doesn't find this guy, but this guy Gordon Keith, who used to actually work for Duffy, but by proxy worked for Markham, who went to jail 2 days before her husband was killed, and then right afterwards managed to get himself released from jail.
Right. This was a little hard for me to keep track of because it's all people we've never met in situations we haven't seen.
Yes.
So they're talking about this and using names that aren't familiar or memorable to me. And she goes on to use these names again when she's talking to Art later.
Yeah.
And it was a little tough for me. I have to be honest.
I get that. But it hasn't been like, we know that she's there to steal Markham's money because he killed her husband as far as she knows. So
Right.
Duffy has sort of had this little off-camera side quest to prove it, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's not ever really something we focused on. So then to have a whole scene where he's explaining something that we didn't necessarily know needed to be explained because we already understand her motivation is a little, probably maybe a little unnecessary. Especially, like you said, if it's involving names of people that we don't know. And
yeah, just kind of going around and around, you know?
Yeah, so I can totally understand that. But I like watching the two of them do everything, so I'm okay with it.
Yeah, that's fair. True.
And this also leads Duffy to mention that Markham is getting fed up with how things are going in Harlan. His men are dying, the place is overrun with the marshals now, and yeah, he thinks that this endeavor of his is rapidly falling apart, and they probably need to make their move soon.
Yeah, I'm like, well, all right. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
It's okay.
I keep on like starting to go down, and I'm like, well, we've covered this pretty much. You know what I mean?
Yes, I
want to repeat myself over here.
I've been doing the same thing because we like these characters a lot, and they keep being fun to talk about, but we're not getting a ton of new information about them, really.
Exactly.
Yeah. But, so Duffy is saying we've really got to move on this, and he hasn't actually been able to get in contact with Boyd for a while about his progress on robbing Markham's money. But Catherine's kind of saying, well, I could just go marry Avery and then take his money in a year or two. Doesn't matter. He'll have access to the entire bank account.
Mm-hmm.
And Duffy says, well, I seem like a third wheel in that scenario.
Yeah,
And she kind of says, well,
I wouldn't
worry
worry too much about it. I'm just thinking out loud.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, that's not what that... Like, I would be worried, for sure, if I were him.
Agreed. Then we go back to Ava's kitchen, and this is where she's finishing stitching up the wound, and he very nearly seems to shoot Earl.
That was a good scene. I'm bummed that he's dead, because I felt like I really hated him initially, and he grossed me out. And then in this episode, I just start to really not even like him. I had much more sympathy for him all of a sudden. Yeah. There was a certain vibe that I was getting off of him. Desperation is too condescending, but it is sort of just desperation in a way. He was trying so hard and using all the tools that he could. And here's a guy who clearly has a skill set and is a smart person. And it just feels like a waste,
Yeah, well, I think maybe that's what it is that he is, like, despite the fact that he's been burned, he's on the run, he's injured, like, it's a horrible scenario every single way you look at it, but this is also what he's good at.
Mm-hmm.
He's not good at being in a suit and convincing people to sell money. He's not good at covering up a murder.
Mm-hmm.
He is good at surviving. He's a soldier. Yep. He is good. This is kind of him in his element, sort of. He's not John Rambo. He's not Jack Bauer, but he is, this is what he did.
Probably could be. Like, yeah, if he were given more training and help and whatever.
His mom hugged him a little more. He could have wound up working for CTU. But he's kind of in his element. And I think maybe, is it going too far to say that you respect him a little bit more?
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. Yeah, I do.
Okay. So, yeah, I agree. Because he does start to become somebody who you can see the dimensions of a bit better. And then he's gone. So, yeah, he is just getting stitched up, and he hears keys at the door, and Boyd comes in, calls for Ava, doesn't get a response, and immediately goes into, alert mode. And Ty appears using Ava as a human shield. So they can have a conversation.
I really enjoy how he's like, put your gun down. I'm not trying to hurt you. And fucking Boyd's like, if you're not trying to hurt me, you put your motherfucking gun down. Mm-hmm. Fair point, Boyd.
Yeah, which, to Ty's credit, he does.
Mm-hmm.
He lets go of the gun, he gives it to Ava, and then Boyd bum rushes him.
Yeah, he kind of seems to weigh it, and he's like, yeah, that's not unreasonable. All right.
Yeah. But finally, before Boyd can go take this too far, Ava talks him down and says, wait, he just wants to talk. He has the combination to the safe.
Mm-hmm.
And that's enough to kind of stay his hand.
Yeah, that's a pretty big get.
Yeah.
I've been trying to just, fucking blow that shit up, and you could just open it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's really this whole next scene. Ty saying, whatever plan you have, being able to walk in and open the safe is a better plan.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, it's it kind of comes down to him saying, at some point you have to trust me or you have to shoot me.
Fair.
And Boyd considers it, but ultimately decides not to shoot him.
Yeah, Boyd makes the same statement or the same assessment that he had a second ago, which is just, yeah, that's not unreasonable.
So after they finish talking, we then go to Catherine's hotel room where she gets a visit from Art, of all people.
Mm-hmm. He just walks up in that shit.
And he is here because he was invited.
Yeah. He is full of surprises, this man.
Right?
He's all up to some shit without, like, being in any of this, really.
Yeah, he's fun when he doesn't have to be on the clock sitting behind a desk.
Yeah, I enjoy Art getting to wander around and cause trouble and poke at people.
Yeah. So Catherine talks a little bit about their mutual interest in figuring out who snitched on Grady.
Mm-hmm.
And she then gives Art the file that Duffy put together. And she expresses her desire that something extremely unpleasant happens to whoever the snitch was.
Yes, I want something like that to happen to him. Well, he got his balls shot off, and then a gut shot. Oh, I forgot that he got his balls shut off. That is fucking rough.
Yeah.
It's pretty great.
He had it coming.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
He only had himself to blame.
Pretty much.
Get it? Do you get it? No?
Maybe I don't
Chicago? He had it coming. Dun, dun.
Okay. All right. I'm tracking now.
I thought that you were a musical theater guy, Alan.
I am, but I can promise you the last time I thought about Chicago was the Richard Gere movie 15 years ago.
Oh, it's so good. I watched that movie last year.
Yeah, it's a good movie. It's a good movie.
Good. I love it. I don't like musicals either, guys, but like seriously, that's just a fun one.
Yeah, that was, and also we saw that in an entirely empty theater, me and a buddy of mine. And he got up halfway through the movie to use the bathroom, and his leg had fallen asleep. He stood up and fell over.
Oh, God.
I've never seen somebody have that. That's one of my strongest memories about that movie, honestly.
That is hysterical. I feel so bad for him, poor guy.
And then he had to use the armrests of the seats around him to like get up and haul himself up the aisle until the feeling came back in his leg. It was the damnedest thing.
Aw.
Anyway, yeah. Art gets this envelope, and then she dismisses him. She is so condescending to him the entire time. He comes in, she makes herself a drink and does not offer one to him.
Yep.
Which, is
power play.
Power play, exactly.
She's always doing that. She did that with fucking Duffy too.
Yes, that's right. That's right. But then when they're done, she goes, "Yeah, you can see yourself out."
Yep.
She's happy to just spin that wheel a little bit and then cast him off.
She's a boss. I love her.
She is. She sure is. Then we go to Raylan, who visits Avery at his restaurant. And she finds him in what they call the Sicilian position, I guess.
That sounds filthy.
Right? Which is essentially when you sit with your back to the wall in full view of all exits and with a weapon close at hand. So he is sitting alone at the barroom reading a newspaper. And Raylan just sort of walks up to him and throws his badge around and then makes himself a drink to sit down to talk. And his offer to Avery is, I want Walker, you want land. Help me get Walker. Maybe you get your land.
Yeah, I feel like every time people try and make deals like this, I'm like, you need some shit in writing.
Yeah.
And it's not even necessarily I don't want to even say that I think that Roland's full of shit here, but just
Raylan.
Sorry, yeah. Ooh, I did a little Dark Tower crossover there. But yeah, I just would be so paranoid if it were me, I think,
Yes. Yeah, and Avery doesn't put a lot of stock in this offer, clearly. But then Raylan pushes it further and says, I get Walker off my plate, I get Boyd, and Boyd is the one who screwed up your plans to get the land everywhere because he was the one who threatened everybody to refuse your money. And that gets his attention.
Yep. Yeah, somehow he hadn't thought of this, which kind of was crazy to me.
Well, I think that he talked to Ty about it one other time down in the basement, how they said it's either Raylan or it's Boyd. And those are two very different animals that have two very different, that need to be dealt with in two very different ways.
Right.
So I guess they talked about it. I'm sorry, the Sicilian advantage it's called, not the Sicilian position.
That's fine.
But so they had talked about it, but I guess it had sort of just been out of his mind recently with everything else. I have to imagine his attention has been elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And but with the idea that Raylan wants to get Boyd, and Boyd is the one who's ultimately been causing Markham all this trouble. So Markham says, "Are you telling me that after all this saber rattling, we're on the same side?"
Yeah, how about that?
And it says, "Well, it's saying we got a common problem."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, I have such mixed feelings about suddenly being like, oh, look, we're on, as he puts it, just the same side. For simplicity's sake, we'll just call it that.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, to be honest, I want Raylan to be on the same side as Boyd. I want to see that.
Yeah, we haven't really seen that since like the end of season 1.
Yeah, I want them to be like up against somebody who's really fucking damaging, like getting to take down a person that's a big fish and really scary and is like, because the two of them together is just so fun. So the fact that he's kind of, and not that I don't enjoy Avery's character, but I just don't know him as well. And he doesn't have, he's not Boyd. I mean, Boyd is making like fucking Ahab comparisons later. It is pretty good. So
yeah, no, that's true. But I also think Raylan is, he's a little too afraid that he's too much like Boyd.
That's true.
That I think if the two of them were to ever seriously team up for any amount of time, I think that I don't think Raylan could take it. I think he'd be too afraid that he would, fall over completely into the dark side, or I don't know. I don't think that Raylan could handle that.
Yeah, that's fair.
So they have a little bit more conversation, and Avery is ultimately where he comes down on this is, I just can't imagine that you are part of the solution to my problem.
Fair.
Which is, very fair. And Raylan says, well, who else do you got? Which is also fair.
Also fair. This is why I liked this scene a lot, because I feel like they are both making really solid points. And that's the thing with this whole show, really, is that everybody on this show tends to have their head. When I say everybody on the show, I mean the main players, obviously, not guys like Dewey.
Sure.
But most people have their heads in the right place and make a solid argument. And when people are going up against each other, a lot of times there's no one person that you're like, oh, they're right. There's always sort of yeah, well, you both kind of have a point here,
Right.
So I enjoyed this interaction a lot, because he really doesn't, he is taking the Sicilian position again, his back up against the wall. That's funny.
Yeah. So Raylan lays out his plan to Markham, which we then see in action as Markham is in the broadcast studio with the real-life Harlan radio show host, Jackie the Crow Cornett.
Oh, it's a real person. I love it.
In the Crow in the Morning show. And he introduces Markham. And Raylan's plan, it turns out, is for Avery to publicly guarantee a $100,000 cash reward to anyone who can bring in Ty.
I mean, I just wasn't this is such, I don't want to say it's just such a dirty move. That was pretty inspired.
Yeah, it takes their private little war and makes it very, very public.
It's pretty enjoyable, not gonna lie.
So everybody with, a shotgun and a box with a stick holding it up is going to be searching for this guy now.
Yep.
And
what is it that he says? Everybody with a pair of nuts and a squirrel shooter.
Yeah.
And I was like, you don't think any women are going to be out there hunting for him? Because I would bet women in this town can be some tough nuts, pun intended.
That was a great way to finish that statement. So yeah, and in the midst of this, Raylan calls up Tim to let him know what's going on and has him tune on the radio. And at the end of it, he says, "You're welcome."
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah. So back in Ava's kitchen, Boyd and Ty are discussing the plan to get into the pizza portal's basement to get Avery's money, and how Ty is then going to escape from the manhunt.
And again, Ty has not thought this shit through.
Yeah.
He literally is going to walk through the front door. Literally says, well, there's nobody watching it now.
But but Ty's point is, he goes like, I know what kind of resources Avery has down here, and they're gone.
Yeah, but like, hi, all the police are looking for you. Where do you think they would look for you? That's like somebody who's wanted for murder going home. You know, like, of course you don't. What are you talking about? It's just, there was a real moment of just like, dude, you are not good at this. And then he's like, well, we can call in a tip from somewhere else. And then it's Boyd again. It's just like, and whose phone will we use to do that? Because going to seem mighty suspicious if it's just a payphone. Like, you know, they're going to not take that one seriously. Although
Boyd takes it seriously, because Boyd pulls Ava aside and says, you know, one tip from you and the marshals will come running. Mm-hmm. Everyone will come running to go wherever you say. And Ava rightly points out they can do that trick exactly once.
Right.
But, you know, it could, assuming that the place is as empty as Ty says it is, this could have worked. At least Boyd seems to think so. Mm-hmm. Or at the very least, he's seriously considering it.
It could have worked, but because they have a resource that Ty doesn't know about.
Also true.
You know, like, it's just like with the information that he has, the suggestions that he's presenting are not really, like, they're just not thought out. They're just the suggestions of somebody who doesn't really know what they're doing. And I don't blame him for that, but it's just that there's this constant reminder that he's just not a criminal, you know?
Yeah.
I just feel bad that he's in this position in the first place, but I don't know what kind of choices he made to wind up here, so.
Yeah. But we don't really get to take that conversation too much further, because Raylan pulls up in front of the house. Yeah. And Boyd goes outside to intercept him. And he's Raylan Givens, and does his whole thing about how you always seem to show up in moments of high drama, but unfortunately this ain't one of them.
Pops right the fuck out that door.
Yeah.
Raylan says, you must be hiding something good.
Yeah.
I love these two so much.
Do you even know when you're lying anymore, or is it just like blinking now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then later, he has to kind of eat that. And Boyd's like, yeah, I guess we're just really good at lying. I'm like, oh, shit.
And they go back and forth for a little bit, and Raylan admits to Boyd the only reason he is still here. He's given him all sorts of bullshit in the past, but really the only reason he's here is to nail him to the wall.
Yeah, exactly.
And he says, there's a part of me that's going to miss this when it's over. And I don't think he's saying that to be, like, snotty. I think, he really does enjoy their little cat and mouse thing.
Mm-hmm. It's great. How is that? How do you not love this? Right? Like, these two. It's like Hick Shakespeare. The dark reflection of the other.
I can get on board with that. And just then Ava comes out on the porch and, chides Boyd for not inviting Raylan in. And Boyd looks like he's going to murder her on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
And, she invites him in for a drink and he accepts. And they continue talking straight through into the living room, where Raylan starts to look around and there's nobody here. Nobody here. Mm-hmm. Nobody here. By the way, did you hear about the $100,000 no strings attached cash reward if we can find Ty Walker? And Boyd goes, he's in the back
Oh my God, it took like nothing.
Yeah.
I felt a little bad for Ty in that moment. Like, you just hear the door slam. Ty is fucking out of there. And like, I felt a little bad for him. I'm just saying.
Like you said, dirty move.
Mm-hmm. It sure is.
Yeah. So they hear a thump, and Raylan heads in that direction, and then there's Earl, who's out cold on the floor. I'd almost feel bad for him if he wasn't such a shit. And Ty is running across the yard. And Raylan comes outside, so Ty starts firing wildly behind him.
If he hadn't done that, I think he might have survived this.
I agree.
You know, like...
I agree.
But this guy...
Yeah, Raylan suffers no fools and just plugs him twice in the back.
And he has the nerve to be like, I was running away. Like, dude... You were firing so haphazardly that you could have killed anybody. That bullet could have just gone right straight through the fucking wall and hit Ava or somebody. Like, just...
Yeah. And those two shots in the back, those are messy. Too.
Yeah, they are.
Like, you don't usually see that. Normally there's like a puff of dust or something, but like, no, those are like big bloody wounds.
Yeah.
But Ty is dying on the ground, and Raylan says, "What? All for what? The money?" And Ty says, no, not just the money, no. But that's all he says.
Yeah, I'm dying to know what that means. Because I believe him. There's something about him and the way that he's handling all of this that feels like there's so much more going on. I don't know what it could be.
So do you think it's a physical thing that he wanted? Is it like an emotional thing or a moral thing or a...
I feel like it's a personal, emotional thing. I feel like there's something that he's maybe like trying to fix in his own life that maybe he thought he could use the money to fix.
Okay.
Like maybe he has a family member who's really sick, or I don't know, just something. Like I feel like we don't know anything about what got him into this. And he seems like a dude that just got in over his head because he's really good at the thing that he does, and he thought that would just translate. And I just felt like in this moment I was like, oh shit. And I kind of feel like Raylan felt that same way too. Like he got it off his face really quick, but there was a moment where he sort of looked like he didn't really know how to react.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know, his eyebrows just kind of came together in this, like, that wasn't what I expected to hear. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I wonder if Raylan, I mean, I shouldn't say, because I was going to say, I wonder if Raylan's going to feel bad about this later. But, like, I don't feel like we've ever seen Raylan feel bad about somebody he shot.
No, I think he feels pretty justified in most of the things he has done.
Yeah.
To coin a phrase.
Shut up.
And you know, I lost track of my people Raylan has killed meter because it's been a while. Again, I remember him killing people right and left, but outside of that first season, he really doesn't do it nearly as often as I thought he did.
Mm-hmm.
But this is maybe 18 or 19 people that he's killed. Again, I really figured by the end of this series we'd be up in like the 40s. And
yeah, I would too, to be honest.
He really hasn't. Plenty of people die, but his murderous rage has gone down considerably since season 1.
Yeah, I think maybe he's learned a little. Maybe.
So we then cut to that evening, and the police and the sheriffs and whatnot are all taping up. They're figuring out the crime scene stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And Raylan goes to talk to Boyd and Ava, and their lawyer, the Wild Man, is there, and he refuses to let them be interviewed.
That guy is great. All the best lawyers have ponytails.
Yeah.
Raylan's got to be throwing shade all the time.
All the time. And they won't be interviewed. And as they're walking away, Raylan says, "Hey, what about your $100,000 cash reward?" And Boyd assumed he was bullshitting him, but he's like, "No, it's there, and there are no strings attached."
Yeah, that is fucking bait and a half.
So we cut to Avery, who's opening his door to find Raylan and Boyd, and just his face drops. And he goes, "You have got to be joking me."
I could not stop laughing. That shit was so funny. Like, and it's not important who gets it. It's not unimportant.
Not unimportant.
That is a good fucking line right there. It's not unimportant. Amen.
Yeah. But he grudgingly leads them down into his vault, and Raylan and Boyd watch as he opens the vault, and we see, I believe the term is fat stacks.
Oh my God, who are you? Stop it. You. Oh my God. Okay.
Markham has all the money. He has all the money in his vault down there.
Yep.
There is, again, Boyd estimates $10 million.
That is like, when your money is wrapped in saran wrap, when you're at the level that you treat your money like it's a chicken drumstick, that's too much money for one person.
Seriously.
That's too goddamn much.
And he peels off that $100,000 like it's lunch money.
Mm-hmm.
There's no skin off his nose.
And I think that was the part that was almost like, I could understand Boyd being like pissed. Like, oh, you're going to be like handing me this money like you're doing some huge favor when you're not even going to feel this.
Yeah.
You know, it's nothing. He could lose that much money and not notice, I bet.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
oh, yeah.
like, oh, that would get me too.
Yeah. So, yeah, they get a peek inside the vault, and both of them are, like, straining to keep normal faces.
Mm-hmm.
And we're also cutting back down to the mine shaft with Zachariah and Carl, and they're tunneling up towards the safe and inserting sticks of dynamite. And, and Avery turns over the cash and secures the vault again and turns and leaves without saying another word.
Yep. What are you going to say? I mean, you know.
It's true. It's true. And we also hear Zachariah screaming, "Fire in the hole!"
Yeah.
Despite whatever else he is up to, he is enjoying the hell out of this.
Yeah, he's like got this look on his face. He is so excited. I felt almost like affection towards him for a second, just for how he was just so, just happy to be here today, you know?
Yeah. So we go back to the basement, though, and Boyd and Raylan are sitting there with $100,000 between them, and they have a conversation, and Boyd is saying, you know, you got me down here just so I could see what he has in that vault.
And Raylan's like, who, me? What? It's like that moment in The Happening. What? No.
So bad.
Oh, God, that movie is garbage.
It's just from start to finish. Oh, my God.
Oh, God, I love it so much, though. I do. It's so fucking stupid. Guys, if you haven't seen The Happening, do yourself a favor. Go rent it. Get a lot of booze. And invite all your friends over. And make a game out of it. That every time the wind blows, you do a shot.
God.
Because that is the highlight of what is scary in that movie is the wind blowing. It's terrifying.
Yeah. I would even say you can skip the booze because you want your senses to be at peak efficiency to take in everything that this movie throws at you.
Oh God, it is so. I remember by the time the movie ended, it was a simultaneous. I have wanted this to be over for so long now, and also, but I was waiting this whole time for the movie to start. What happened? It just didn't make any sense.
Yeah, that is Yeah, truly amazing piece of cinema.
Oh, well.
So, back to the basement. Yeah, Raylan and Boyd are going back and forth that, you wanted me to see this, and Raylan's smirking at him.
Mm-hmm.
And Boyd basically says to him, like, yeah, I am getting all of this money. Bye.
But Boyd's like, are you sure you want me to go after this money? I'm sure that you want me to, and I guess I'll play directly into your hands without thinking about why you've set me up so completely. He just really straight up thinks he's just going to get away with whatever he tries.
Yep.
Like, dude, think for a second about why this is being dangled in front of you the way that it is. It doesn't even occur to him. It doesn't feel like that maybe Raylan is working with Avery to catch Boyd, which, as far as Boyd knows, is a complete possibility here. Like,
yeah.
Boyd, dude.
I'd even say going beyond what Raylan set up with Avery. Raylan said back in the first episode of the season, what I really want is to get Boyd in a corner so he can draw on me so I can just shoot him down.
Yep.
And that's exactly what he's doing. He is angling him into the corner in the quickest possible way he can.
And I just never thought Boyd would be stupid enough to fall for it. And he thinks he's being smart about it. And that's the part that kills me.
And you can see that on Ava's face later, which we'll get to that scene. But he cannot see how blinded he is.
It's so predictable. Like, honestly, this is the kind of thing where I'm such a fucking contrarian about shit. I can be so defiant for no good reason. None. Oh my God, I have ruined parts of my life just because I was a fucking stubborn little shit. And if somebody tried to play me and was smiling to themselves about it, going, oh, I know she's going to fall for this shit. And they were making it straight up obvious that they knew they had me in our conversations. There's no fucking way I'm doing it. Even if I desperately want to. Just out of straight principle. I just wouldn't. Because I'm not doing the thing that you want me to do. It's like there's this moment in The Secret Garden where she finally meets her like secret cousin Colin that she didn't know existed. And he's saying, oh yeah, I'm going to die really young. Everybody thinks I'll die. And she says, if everyone thought that about me, I wouldn't do it. That's me right there. So it's just crazy to me that Boyd not only doesn't have that streak in him, at the very least regarding Raylan specifically, even if it's not a personality trait, I would feel like Raylan be a special case. But then doesn't think, well, just out of reflex, I don't want to do it, but maybe this is so fucking cliche that I should worry. It just,
I'm trying to remember this, the quote, and I know I can't remember exactly what it is, but the Arrested Development quote about how, have other companies tried to do this? Yes, they all try to do it because they think it's going to work for them, and it always ends up going terribly. But it actually might work for us.
oh my God.
And I can't remember the exact quote about it, but it's I don't know. That show has so much relevance to too many things.
That's funny. I know. I have watched that once, like years ago, so I don't remember a lot of it, but that's pretty good.
Oh, it's so good. So Boyd's an idiot. He leaves. The scene ends with Raylan alone in the basement, which is weird, but whatever. Mm-hmm. And he hears these two distant explosions and has he sees the water, like there's a Tyrannosaurus Rex outside, mm-hmm. Jiggle in the in its bottle. And he looks around the basement and is he's got his thinky face on.
His thinky face. Well said, sir.
Yes. So we then follow Boyd back into his bar, and he praises Earl for all of his hard work and then sends him home. And then he and Ava celebrate their $100,000 for 30 seconds. And Ava's excited. She tells him now that they have the money, they can leave.
And he's like, I thought you might say that because you're the sane one in the relationship.
Yeah.
But hold on, let me fuck it all up for a second.
Yep.
No tolerance for this man right now, I swear to God.
Nope. And and I'm wondering if he's actually taken the time to set up those boxes on the table to illustrate the money.
I 100% thought he had, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So Ava tries to desperately talk him out of this, and he will not be dissuaded. Mm-mm. He needs that big score.
This just hurts to watch. It's my friend and I went to, and I hate casinos, but it was the only place nearby in fucking Old Saybrook to go late at night when I was about to be married the next day. So me and my friends went to Foxwoods. And she brought her dumbass boyfriend who bet all night. He was up $380. And every single one of us was like, good. Oh my God, great. Let's go have some drinks and like spend that fucking awesome money that you just got for free. And he was like, nah, I'm gonna just, and lost all that shit. Every single one of us was sitting there with our face in our hands as he put the money back on the table. Boyd,
gambling.
I don't understand it. I really do not understand it. I could maybe understand it if you were somebody who had all the money you ever needed. But the people you see gambling are rarely those people.
Yeah.
And that's the part that I just am like, how? But, whatever. Everybody has their thing, I guess.
Whatever. Exactly. So, Ava eventually, extricates herself and says, I need to talk to Raylan because after everything that's happened today, he's going to be expecting it. So please give me my phone so I can leave. Mm-hmm. But she does.
Yeah, she says after everything that happened today, he's going to be expecting it, which is the opposite of what's true. Because Raylan later is just like, how the fuck did you get here? Yeah. I feel like she makes an assumption there, and I'm like, that doesn't really make sense. Like, when she said it to him, he's going to be expecting to talk to me. I was surprised when she said it. And then when he's like, yeah, so how did you get away to come here? I was like, that's exactly the question I want to know too, like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a miscalculation on her part, but I think at that point she is so frustrated with him.
Yeah.
And let me ask you this, because this scene coming up with the two of them is her last scene in this episode, I believe. I asked you this a few episodes ago, and you weren't really sure about what you wanted to happen to Ava because you didn't really know what she wanted. What do you want to happen to her at the end of this series?
Honestly, at this point now, I want her to take that $50,000 and leave. That's what I want her to do because I like her and Boyd together a lot. I think that they work well together, but Boyd in the end is always going to be looking after Boyd. Like, he says to her, what, do I have a choice? Bitch, what are you talking about? Do you have a choice? Nobody's putting a gun to your head making you go after this. You know for a fact that this is part of a setup. How are you going to sit there and imply that, oh, well, my hands are tied? What? Do you think that she is that stupid that she doesn't know you have a choice? What are you even saying? And he even says, like, I know you're a smart woman and you know a good deal when you see one. And I'm like, apparently not. Because this is a bad deal. And it doesn't look like she's just taken off.
Right.
So, I'm just so mad at Boyd right now. I thought more of you, Boyd. I expected more of you. I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you.
Yeah, and I think it was very easy to get wrapped up in the sort of Bonnie and Clyde fantasy of the two of them, which is, I think, what happened to her for a couple of seasons there.
And I think that, like, I did the thing where, you know, he asked for a clean slate, and I was like, well, she told him to get lost. Okay, I kind of get that. And now we're seeing, even when the chips are down and she's there for him, he's still not willing to meet her. I gave him the benefit of the doubt, and he squandered that shit.
Yeah.
You know, like, don't make
Agreed.
a fool out of me, Boyd. Don't do that. I'm just a little bit pissed, that's all.
All right. And if I remember correctly, the last time I asked you that question, that's essentially the same answer you had then, too, which is, I just wish she could get the hell out of here.
Yeah, you know, there's just so many people on the show that it's sort of like The Wire in that way, where you just keep seeing people that you're like, holy shit, if they were anywhere else, they could do really well. But they have to be fucking here with these fucking assholes. And there's just so few options when you're dependent on like a million other extraneous factors to fall into place. I just don't see a way for her. She could just leave and she could just take that 50 grand.
True.
I don't at all think she'll do it. I think that she loves Boyd, and I think that she is too hopeful that he can pull it off.
Okay.
Not even that she like believes that he can. If I were her, what I'd be doing is like, if I were her, what I'd be doing is running. But let's say she decides to stay, and then I get projected into her body after she's made that decision, and I can't just bail.
As happens sometimes, yes.
Right, exactly. Days of Future Past style, except wrong body.
Right.
I would be watching very carefully to make sure that it all goes okay. And the instant shit looked like it was going sideways, I would take that 50 grand and be gone. I would have a go bag, like the constable, except, you know, functional, and with $50,000 in it. And I would be prepared to take care of myself, but hope for the best. That's where I would be.
Okay, that makes sense. So, well, I guess, again, we'll have to see what happens. But her last scene here, she's clearly in more shit than she thinks she is. Mm-hmm. Because she meets with Raylan, and her through line on this conversation is, WTF, you just gave him $100,000, and you promised me 50 if I can help you deliver a successful conviction. Mm-hmm. That is so not cool.
You know, it's a pretty good way to start the conversation, because it feels like if things were the way they had been and she was still a CI, that is the thing that she would be focusing on. So I appreciated the way that she chose to play it when she showed up, but the fact that she showed up at all was really the problem. So didn't ultimately wind up mattering. Yeah.
And Raylan wants to know what today was all about with Ty at the house, because he noticed that when she invited him in for a drink, Boyd's face had said that she was not supposed to do that. Mm-hmm. And Raylan is getting increasingly suspicious that this has gone sideways, as you said. But right. Ava's insisting that everything is, no, it's all still good. We're still fine. And then Raylan starts pressing, what happened in Bulletville? And he asks her 2 or 3 times. And she dodges the question and insists we were just hunting. We went hunting.
I do not understand her not being prepared for this question. Like, when he asks her that, she looks surprised that he knows. You know he tracks your phone. That's how he knew you ran the first time. People in this show do not think.
Sometimes.
And I'm not criticizing the writing when I say that, because people don't think. That's just a fact.
Yeah.
She's got a lot on her mind. I get it. But, like, on the way over there, I would be fully expecting him to start asking about this. Like, I guess she just expects him to only be thinking about today and all that shit. He shot a dude. He found a fucking fugitive in their house. Okay, I guess. Yeah.
And she does. She comes prepared with all of this information that he's already guessed a good portion of it, but she comes to lay out all this other stuff, this helpful information that he's been begging her for 8 episodes. Mm-hmm. You know, about what mine they're coming in. The plan is to tunnel up through the ground and all that stuff. So, yeah, I think she probably overlooked some pretty basic important stuff. And the scene ends with Raylan saying, "Why is it always a fight with us?"
Yeah.
And she says, "We're too much alike, I think." Which I thought was kind of an interesting observation. I don't really know how I feel about it.
I don't think that's true at all. I don't know. Maybe. I guess they're both people who are like basically trying to do the right thing most of the time, but wind up being surrounded by shitty people.
And they're both too stubborn for their own good.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think I have to sit on that for a little while longer. Because you're right. On the first glance, I don't know that I see it.
Yeah.
But there are people on the edge of doing bad things all the time, maybe?
I guess that are like, yeah, I guess that's true. Constantly being pushed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all right.
So, yeah. So Ava leaves, and Raylan calls into Rachel at the Marshal station. And he says he doesn't know when the robbery is supposed to happen, but he knows how it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then he tells her that Ava is burned. And Rachel's not happy about it. She asks how he knows, and he says, "I just know."
Yeah, he does just know. Because, I mean, it's sort of funny that he says that, though, because it's not really that he just knows. Like, she wouldn't answer him. So it's kind of, but yeah. That's fair. Yeah,
and I think also Raylan just, as much as we have, the relationship between him and Ava has never been our favorite part of the show. I think he doesn't want to give her up and send her back to prison and, shine all this, crappy spotlight on her.
Do you know what? I just straight up forgot that he's going to be sending her back to prison by saying this. I didn't even think about it. That's true. Whoops.
Yeah. So I think this much is hard enough for him to say without him laying down evidence that, that she's no longer trustworthy. So.
Oh, that sucks.
It does. And Rachel tells him to come to Lexington first thing in the morning. They'll hash out a strategy to figure out what they do next. And then this leads to our second to last scene of the episode, and this is what we talked about at the very top, where he goes out to this old shed of Arlo's that was always his shed that no one was allowed to go to, and he had the only key to the lock and all that stuff, and finds it totally empty, and except for the ghost of his dad, where they have a brief little conversation.
Symbolism.
Yeah. And I do like, and obviously this is the Arlo of Raylan's head, not real Arlo, but when Raylan's telling him about I was slave girls, or you had animals in there to kill, secrets and horrors, and it ain't nothing. And Arlo's response to that is, that's just like you, with your head in the goddamn clouds.
Which is so hilarious. The idea that anybody would say the problem with Raylan is that his head's always in the clouds. Yep. Yeah. Sure sounds like him to me. What? That's hilarious.
Very true. That's very true. And I also like the way that we're revealed to Arlo is Raylan looking around and he goes, "It's empty." And you hear Arlo from over his shoulder say, "What were you expecting? Rosebud?"
Yeah. Yeah, when you hear him talk, I almost hit the ceiling. I was like, "Wait, what?" For a second, I didn't remember whose voice it was, and I didn't put together what was even happening. And then when the camera turns and it's him, I'm like, "Oh, it's in his head." Okay, because I just had a moment of just what.
How amazing would it be if that whole thing was faked and Arlo's been living out here in the woodshed for the past 2 seasons? Oh my God,
he's been in that fucking basement.
Right?
My big secret is that I'm alive.
So our last scene is the next morning where Raylan meets with the mortician again. And the mortician has shown up with a backhoe to go and dig everything out.
That's no way to refer to Raylan's mom. Sorry, everybody.
So Raylan has been reflecting on their conversation from the opening of the episode, and he decided the mortician's correct, and there really isn't much of his mom to disinter.
Yeah.
And,
which is like a weird thing to be like, yeah, you're right. Not that he's seen.
right.
You know, he doesn't really know that for sure, but I guess he's just decided to come to terms with it, like, as a concept that she's gone.
Yeah. Yeah, it's him starting to actually, like you said earlier, come to terms with some stuff, which is very unlike him. So, you know, good on you.
Mm-hmm.
And, and the episode ends with the big claw digging up that Raylan Givens tombstone and knocking it over.
Yeah.
And the mortician asks where they'd like it to be relocated, and he says, your guess is as good as mine.
Which I would be so infuriated. This fucking guy keeps asking Raylan what he wants, and Raylan just keeps giving him non-answers. I don't know, wherever you want. Yeah, your guess is as good as mine. Well, put it in that fucking field. Oh,
Stop being reflective. Stop having character growth. We rented this backhoe. They're charging by the hour.
I would be ready to fucking kill him. Oh, God, just answer my goddamn question. I have 2 more appointments today.
I'm thinking of when you're playing like a role-playing game and you really want to move on with the story, and one of the people at the table has decided that they're going to have an inner monologue for a while to try to get some additional experience points.
Right.
They sit there and just sort of have their little soliloquy for as long as they possibly can until the dungeon master finally just says, fine, you gain 200 experience points for being introspective. Can we please move on?
Wow, I never knew that was a thing that happened that often, but okay.
It doesn't happen often.
Well, damn.
I had one friend who really, really, really liked to go into, like, he was like, we all have our characters set up, so we're going to play. My character came from a small town, and he always wanted to be a fighter, so he grew up learning to use swords. Well, my character's grandfather was a blah, 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 blah. He has 5 pages of backstory about the history of his family and how it's intrinsically tied to the land.
Nobody cares.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he used to get so deep into whatever the hell we were doing, any possible way he could come up with the backstory for his character and the emotional toll the events are taking on him was, he was going for that shit. It got real old.
Oh my God. That would just, like, and don't get me wrong, there are people who can come up with stories like that and you get kind of engrossed, but most people can't pull it off. Just straight off.
Yeah, I don't even remember if he was any good at it or not. I was just like, are we supposed to be doing this? Is that the way this works?
Right.
But yeah, so Raylan is having his own little inner monologue. He would be turning towards the audience and speaking to the audience if he had the ability to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we are left watching a backhoe as we go to credits.
Yeah, that was a good episode, though. I really liked that one.
Yeah.
I just feel like a lot happened.
Agreed.
I'm really digging this season.
No, I really think that they ended on a strong season, and that's not always something you can say when a show's been running for 6 seasons.
Almost never. Like, let's be honest. Usually season 6 is when you're really starting to be like, yeah, they need to just... And then season 7 is when you're like, oh my God, guys, what are you doing? That's almost always how it goes.
Yeah.
That 7th season is sort of the kiss of death for most of them.
Yeah, that's about right. And I really do think it's a shame that this show... I realize how much good TV was on during the years that this show was running. Mm-hmm. But the fact that people just constantly would overlook this show in favor of, again... worthy stuff, Breaking Bad and early seasons of Game of Thrones and whatever. Yeah. So just like, it's a really good show.
Yeah, it's their bad luck that they were on at the same time as Breaking Bad, because a lot of the vibe of it feels similar enough that if people are going to pick, they're going to pick Breaking Bad. But they would still love this show. But most of the time, I'm the kind of person that when there's like a particularly great show on that feels like it's sort of tailored to what I love, I never trust that there's a second show on that I'm going to like as much. Even if people tell me, no, it's really good, I'm just like, no, I love this one show so much. Anything else I watch is going to be a disappointment. And that's sort of my mindset with that kind of thing a lot of times, you know? So I could see people just straight up not wanting to give it a chance because they just don't want to be disappointed because they know that they're going to compare it because there's kind of no avoiding it.
Right.
Bummer.
Totally.
But that's the thing with art when it's like kind of dependent on sales to continue and to get noticed and whatever. At least they got 6 seasons, even considering that most people don't. Oh, like most people I talk to have never seen this show. They got a good run. Like it's not like they got canceled after a season, you know. So good on them.
Agreed. Also, I thought you were referring to the character art.
Oh,
took me a second.
Tee.
So yeah, that's where we leave it for now.
Yeah. All right. Well, we don't have any new reviews because everybody hates us. The last review we got was in April. Guys, if you like the show, leave us a damn review. Come on. It's the least you can do.
Yeah.
The least you can do. I'm looking at you.
I'm going to put a whole lot more O's in there. Come on!
All right, new patrons this week. Olivia DaCosta, Aaron Stott, and Chandra Trinkle. How great a name is that, though?
Wow, that's like that is a great name. There's a lot of character in that name.
It sounds like a character in a YA like modern novel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I just love it so much. So, hi, Chandra. Hopefully I'm pronouncing it right. Otherwise I sound like a tool. But welcome to all of you guys. Thank you so much. A couple of you are $10 and up. And you are going to be getting the patrons only postcard, which this month is 2 postcards. You cut the postcard down the middle and you get 2 bookmarks. One of the bookmarks is modeled after Rashawn's bookmark in Harry Potter when she first started out, and it just says "Stop fucking reading." And the second bookmark is for me, and it says "Don't mention Quirrell." If you listen to Harry Potter, you'll get that joke.
And if you don't know what it means, you should start listening to Harry Potter because it's a delightful series.
Even if you don't read Harry Potter, first of all, get your life. Second of all, listen to the show anyway. Because we explain every single part of the plot. So even if you don't read the books, listening to us basically read you a story. And sometimes that's literally what's happening on the show. It's pretty fun.
Yeah. Have you found people that have done that?
Done what?
Not either with Harry Potter or with any of them that aren't actually reading the stuff but are following along just
not so
for the
far.
first time? No,
I had a couple people who listened to other podcasts on TV shows of mine, and they hadn't watched the show.
So weird.
I know it's the kind of thing that I think is really weird. And then I think about the Flophouse, and I'll definitely listen to Flophouse episodes about movies that I've never seen. But those are one-off episodes, not a whole series.
Yeah, it's a big commitment for a whole series.
Yeah, it's just sort of a weird thing. All right, why not? But I listen to so few podcasts as it is that the idea of listening to one that I'm not invested in is just strange to me. But I get invested for different reasons than some people, so it's fine. And also, $5 and up, you're going to get access to the newest season of Twin Peaks that I'm covering with Maggie right now. Just was released. I think they just had the finale 2 weeks ago. And if you are a patron at all, $5, $3, $1 for the month of October, starting right now, I posted it a little early, the first episode of Unspooked. I do one a week for just a month. It's me reading spooky stories. They're very fun. I love doing them. if it didn't require the amount of time and putting things together that it does, I would want to do them year round. But it's just too much. If it were something that was released on iTunes, I could probably start getting enough listeners that people would begin to submit stories. But as it is, it's a patrons only thing. And so not enough people hear it to really like submit enough to sustain the show. So I have to go out and find stories. And it is surprisingly hard to find ones that are worth reading. So, you know, but I'm having a lot of fun with it. The first one for this season, I think, came out really well. Did some new stuff. And y'all should check that out. It just got posted on Wednesday. Wednesday, September 27th was the day that it went up. So go listen to it. I'm getting good feedback on it, which is always nice. And I think that's about everything. Yeah, that's it.
All right.
So, thank you, sir, for being here.
Thank you, as always.
Thank you so much. You guys know where to find us. Facebook.com/ sorry, I keep saying backslash and Owen keeps screaming at me. It's just slash. Jesus, fine. Facebook.com/unspoiledpod. Twitter @unspoiledshow. Instagram @unspoiledpodcast. And I'm on Instagram @theglamourjunkie. Or you can find me, my personal account on Twitter @Natasha Writing. Sir, would you like to take it away?
Sure thing. You can find me also on Facebook, hanging around Unspoiled. You can find me on Twitter @AlKingsley. I've been a little light on the Twitter feed recently, but I am there and plan to pick back up sometime soonish. And I am actually also on Instagram @AlanKingsley, but I couldn't tell you the last time I actually did anything on there. So looks like Christmas, but I've got some cool pictures. So,
well,
you know, follow me, love me. I have perler art, so, you know, that's cool.
You have what?
Perler art?
Perler art? What's that?
Yeah. That's where you take, like, the little plastic beads and you put them in the shape of... I actually made the Avengers in perler art. And then you press them with an iron, and they all fuse together to make little plastic things.
Okay, yeah, I got you.
Yeah. You can stick a magnet on the back of them and put them on your refrigerator.
I see a lot of kids do that and make Christmas ornaments and stuff.
Yes, exactly.
Got you.
So yeah, my Instagram feed is it's small, but it's mighty. So,
right.
So yeah, you can find me there if you so choose, and of course you can always find me here on Unspoiled.
Yay! All right, everyone. Well, thank you again so much for listening. Please leave a review if you haven't, because we need it. It's important. It's super, super important. And we will see you next week with a new episode.
Bye, everybody.
Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
On this lonely road, trying to make it home, doing it by my lonesome, pissed off, who wants some? I'm fighting for my soul, God get you, boy. You try to go, God fall back, I go hard. On this lonely road, trying to make it home, doing it by my lonesome, pissed off, who wants some? I see them long, hard times to come. My life is ill, son, prepared to kill, son. Paradox of pain, baby, is real, son. Lonely traveler, ain't trying to rowdy you, but if you're feeling tough, dog, I walk up all challenges. Ain't got no family.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.